Hello, and thank you for joining us on another one of our tutorials. We're feeling very pink here today. We're still celebrating February and our flower of the month, which is the rose. Concentrating today on very subtle pink, delicate roses. There is a wide kaleidoscope of pink. We're focusing more on the delicate shades. Okay, so we're starting off with our 40 centimetre. Now this one is baby face. A very delicate, very small headed rose. Has its place. It's perfect for jam jar work, corsage work, if you've got a few flowers you want to put in the hair, because it's such a tiny rose. So very pretty colour. Then we've got Avalanche Sorbet. You're probably all very familiar with the Avalanche rose. It is probably, for good reason, one of the most well loved, I would say, varieties for wedding work. Always develops well, it's easy to handle, very rarely does it have thorns on, so perfect to work with, and it opens up beautifully. I have to say, I have one here that's quite elderly. This is not an Avalanche Sorbet, this is actually a sweet Avalanche. This is actually 10 days old, this one. It was a 70 centimetre stem length, but you can see how beautifully the bloom has developed, how big and open it is. 10 days old that, so you know the vase life on an avalanche is very good. This is not such a long stemmed avalanche. This is actually Avalanche Sorbet, and it's a 50 centimetre stem length, so you're not going to get a finished bloom when it's fully open. It's quite as big as you would if you bought an 80 centimetre stem, but you're still going to get a really big multi-petalled blousy rose. So that's the Avalanche. Then we have this rose is Bell Pink. This one works really nicely for a vintage kind of feel, because it has a lovely green outer guard petal. So you can see not every rose is identical either, which is quite nice if you're looking for a slightly random appearance. If I turn these roses upside down this way, you can see actually how different they look. From the side view, you'd almost think they were two completely different roses. When they fully open and when they fully develop, they obviously do all look very similar. But yeah, that's Bell Pink. It's nice because it has a gradient of colour. You start at the base of the petal with almost an ivory cream tone, mixed with a bit of green possibly. Then it goes into a pale pink, ending up with a slightly deeper pink on the outside edge. Only disadvantage with Bell, having just given you lots of good reasons to purchase it, is it's always rather thorny, as you can see. So that's not too much of an issue if you use a rose thorn stripper. I'm just going to grab one of those. That's this little piece of kit, this lovely little tool here. All you need to do is just place the rose stem in the thorn stripper and just remove the thorns. And then, as you can see, nice and comfortable to handle. Only takes a couple of minutes. It's not detrimental to the longevity of the rose. The only thing I would say is it does sometimes make it look slightly less aesthetically pleasing, because it does take a little bit of the outside stem of the rose off, especially if you're a bit heavy-handed. Again, that's not detrimental, especially not if you're popping it into a vase of water. So that's Rose Bell. Then we have one of the beautiful roses that we use quite a lot for wedding work. You can find this one on our website as Rose Bridal Dusky Pink. It's one of the Colombian varieties, and you can already see, just simply from the depth of head, if I compare that to baby face, you can see there's absolutely no comparison. So you can appreciate that when that rose opens up fully, you're going to end up with a rose that's similar size, if not slightly larger, to that. So yeah, well worth looking at, that Bridal Dusky Pink. Now I'm often asked about what roses to purchase for wedding work, and often people do tend to be drawn very much towards the cost side of it. So perhaps selecting one of the cheaper end of roses, which for example in this case would be Babyface. I think these are currently about 34 pence a stem on our website. It's not always the best route to go down, to be honest with you. If you buy a smaller grade with a smaller head of rose, it's not always so cost effective. Often you find you need to use so many more to create the impression that you would with perhaps one or two of the larger headed ones. So from a cost effective point of view, it's sometimes better to purchase a more expensive larger headed rose because you don't need to use quite so many. But it's always, as they say, horses for courses. I mean, this sort of rose works beautifully in little jam jar arrangements, whereas this type of rose works beautifully in bridal work, big arrangements, pedestals and that sort of thing. So don't forget to give us a call or use our chat facility to ask for any advice that you need when purchasing, because obviously if it's for an important occasion like a wedding, you want to get it right the first time because you don't get a second chance. So yeah, please always call us and we're always willing to help. So thank you for joining us on another one of our tutorials. I hope you found it beneficial. And look out for a lot more of our other tutorials because we'll be concentrating on yet more roses in February. So thanks for joining us.